Hey, you guys, good morning. Happy Thursday. Um, I say it's happy first day of fall. I know it's still summer, but I woke up this morning and the air was different. It is turning into fall here in Colorado very quickly. What about for where your part of the country is? Is it fall weather? Is it still very much summer? I'm ready for a pumpkin spice latte. That's all I can say. So, that being said, I have a couple of announcements to share before we dive into today's topic. So, next week, we are starting at a new time. Simple Business Stewardship is going to be still on Thursdays, but at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. And everyone always asks me, what's Mountain Time compared to where I am? So, that is going to be 10 a.m. Pacific or 1 p.m. Eastern or 11 Central. So that is the time, or sorry, 12 Central because it's 11 Mountain. So I get mixed up too. Okay. So basically an hour later than what we've been doing this summer. And I'm really excited that next week I'm going to have an awesome guest with me. His name is Jay Lee. He's the president of Golden Compass, and he's an amazing financial coach and leadership expert. He's got a really cool story that you're going to get to hear. So put it on your calendars now. I will be making an event a lot farther in advance than I did today so that you can be sure to click that you're attending that. But if you put it on your calendar now, so that other stuff doesn't get in the way, you're going to want to hear from Jay. So that will be next Thursday at 11 Mountain, which again is 10 Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Okay. That's all I've got for announcements today. But yeah, remember that will be the new standing time for when we go live. And if you are here, let me make sure I can see the chat. Hey, Chris, great to see you. Glad you could be here today. If you're here, please comment and say hi so that I can say hi to you as well. My intention for these is not just to pontificate, but for this to be a really fun interaction so we can get some Q&A, share your opinion, share your thoughts. Feel free to challenge me on stuff if you're like, hey, I want to push back on something. This should be a valuable discussion. So awesome. Let's dive in. So this is something that this topic of being consultative. It's sort of become a buzzword. We see a lot of consultation calls. And as you may know from previous posts, I've been reading through a book by Anthony Iannarino. I think I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. Anthony, if you ever happen to be watching this and you want to correct me on how to pronounce your last name, if I'm saying it wrong, feel free. But he wrote an incredible book called Elite Sales Strategies, and I can't recommend it highly enough. And if you hate sales, or if that is the least fun part of your job, read this book, and I can guarantee you're going to feel very differently about it, and you're going to have a higher closing rate when it comes to really any industry, because these principles of being consultative in your business apply across the board. These are principles and strategies and really sound practices that you can apply no matter what industry you're in, whether it is a product or whether you're service-based. So all that being said, I received a really great question yesterday, and that is, what does it mean to be consultative or consultative? Let me know in the chat how you pronounce that, consultative or consultative. But when it comes to the sales process, what does it mean? We use that word a lot. Consultation calls are very commoditized. They're very common. Anthony talks about that in his book, and how, look, that's not really a special thing anymore. It kind of used to be to offer that complimentary consultation call, but everyone is sort of used to that, and they're committing some of their time to talk to you. So how do you bring value to that? How do you make that a valuable conversation for someone? How do you show that value so that people want to work with you and see you as the solution to their challenge? And so while we're not going to get into an in-depth training, I just want to share some thoughts, and I would love to hear from you Where do you want to dive deeper in this? What questions come up for you? What insights come up for you? What aspects of this would you like to do a deep dive on? And if I get some feedback on that, then I would be happy to do an episode in the near future where we do a deep dive on some of these topics on sales, the consultation. I can tell you that I can remember my very first consultation meeting and my first coaching consultation. I was so nervous. I was meeting a couple at the library because they had private meeting rooms. And this was before I was doing things virtually. So I drove there. I think I got there half an hour early just so I could get my stuff set up, review my notes. I had sort of a template that I was using, and I'm pretty sure I was shaking. And I was so exhausted afterwards because it just required so much energy, when you're doing something new and you haven't done this, dozens of times, you don't feel quite comfortable with your process yet. And so I was so nervous, but I was also really excited to meet with this couple. I knew just a little bit of their background and what they needed help with. And I knew that I could serve them and help them, but I also was just very, very nervous, and it felt very unnatural to me. I felt very out of my element. And so when we met and I started asking them questions and we started going through the process, I was honestly surprised when they hired me. But they did hire me, and it was a great coaching relationship. And one of the things is, like, I think we can all look back on areas in our business where we've grown, or we can look back from even a year ago and say, wow, I've even grown in that area. But, still in those early days, I was thinking of that consultation session as a sales session. So I want to really flip the meaning. What does it mean? Yeah, the end objective is to make a sale, but actually, there's an even bigger priority than that. And that is to serve the client or the prospective client in that moment. Now, how could this apply if you are not a service-based industry? Well, let me tell you about a story that my dad shared with me, because my parents are going through a kitchen renovation right now, and they're replacing the cabinets. And oh man, I had no idea how many options there were when it came to kitchen cabinets, not just the design and the finishes, but how you actually procure those cabinets. Whoa, there are a lot of options. And he was telling me about some of those options. And something that he said really struck me as fascinating, because he went to this one company where there was this woman who was sharing about their process, but she wasn't just saying, here's our process, here's what we do, here's why you should choose us. No, she took time with my parents to ask what they needed, to talk about how they could serve my parents' needs and get them the results that they wanted, get them the kind of product that they want. And she helped educate them on the areas of finding cabinets that my parents didn't know about, because there's a lot of details. And so she helped educate them on these details so that my parents could make a better informed decision. And that is the consultative role that you want to have too. Now, at the end of the day, she may or may not get that sale from my parents. But my dad said something interesting. He said, her advice and her help and guidance was worth so much that I want to pay her $1,000 if we don't use her, just because she's been so helpful. And I almost feel bad not compensating her. And the fascinating thing to me is that in this inflationary environment where businesses are feeling really pressed, where their margins are being pressed and challenged, right? The temptation is to cut costs, but not only cut costs, because cutting costs can be a good thing. I'm all about increasing your margins and being efficient with your budget. But what you don't want to do is cut costs in a way that affects the customer experience, right? This woman didn't have to didn't have to, take all this time to pour into my parents. She didn't have to take her time. She didn't have to take all of this expertise um, when she didn't have a guarantee of a sale, right? She could have waited until after, they wrote her a check, but she took the position of a consultant, and that made her rise to the top among the choices, right? Okay, Chris has a question. So today's topic, I have to say, I tweaked it a little bit. Chris and I were chatting yesterday, and Chris is the one who inspired me with his question about being consultative, and so I have tweaked things a little bit in response. But also, there have been things that have come up, between the conversation I had with Chris. So that was definitely a big inspiration. And then the conversation I was having with my parents about their process of how they're choosing their cabinets, and among other things that I've been reading and just chatting with people about. So it's sort of a culmination. When I notice these trends, I like to go, oh, hey, that would be an interesting thing to talk about, because I'm able to pull from different sources of inspiration and observation. And I think there's something to this that we should discuss. So yeah, good question, Chris. You definitely had a big role in inspiring the topic for today. And also, what I want to do with today is just make this a lot more formal and casual, and get your guys' feedback on where you want to do a deeper dive with this. So please give me feedback and let me know, or if you have different information or additional thoughts and insights, I want to hear that from you too. So let's make this collaborative. I want to bring you guys good value, things that you can apply in your business immediately, and not just, sort of ideas that don't translate into action. So I'm all about ideas that translate into action. All right. So yeah, we're not gonna. This will be a short one today, but they're kind of getting back to what we were chatting about. It doesn't matter what your industry is. The idea is you want to find out, you want to learn from your client. What are they trying to achieve? Here's another example. There is a store called Savory Spice. They are, I don't know if they're national. I know they have several locations in Colorado, and they have just really great quality spices. Now, in this economy and in such an inflationary environment, you can imagine that Savory Spice might be suffering. I don't know how they're doing financially with their business, but I got this really great idea from a friend to use their products as Christmas gifts. So what I'm going to be doing in the next couple weeks here is I'm going to be going to their store, because we have a local store here, and I'm going to be buying some of their spice mixes as Christmas gifts. And these are really economical for a Christmas gift. And then I can go to Home Goods and like buy a little dish and pair it with the spice mixture. And it's sort of this luxury type of, but wow, what a great opportunity that Savory Spice has to capitalize on being a unique and economical Christmas, even if compared to the spices that you can buy at the grocery store, they're going to be really premium, right? So when you have someone come into your store, you say, well, what is it that you're looking for? Is there an occasion? Start asking questions, because then maybe they were just going to buy one thing, but if they're looking for an economical gift idea, well, how great. Have you thought about this as, possible Christmas gifts? Here's some ideas. Oh, wow. Now all of a sudden I'm buying 10 products from you instead of just one, because you've been able to dig a little deeper, and as a consultant, help solve my challenge of needing a certain number of Christmas gifts on a certain budget, right? So that's another way you can approach your customer as a consultant, even if you're selling a relatively inexpensive product like spices. Now, a lot of us here are in service-based industries, so let's talk about how this applies, in your consultation session. How can you make it truly consultative? and not just another sales call where you're trying to convince someone that they should buy from you and that they should buy from you and not one of the other guys. Okay. So a few tips on that. I want to read an Anthony Iannarino quote, but it is from a different book called I'm using my iPad for notes and I lost my spot here, you guys. This is why I took a picture of it just in case. All right, here's the quote. He says this in his book, The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need. I quickly saw there was nothing manipulative or self-oriented about anything he did. It was all about finding a way to help the client. Once I discovered that selling was about helping people get a result that they couldn't get without my assistance, I began to love the game. You guys, this is the heart that we want to have in sales. If you're a solopreneur, you are a salesperson. Welcome to the game, whether you want to be in that game or not, whether sales is naturally appealing to you or not. To most of us, sales feels icky until we actually learn what it actually means and what it actually can be. If it's all about helping the client, helping the person in that consultation call, then here's how you're going to approach it. Number one, you're going to be emotionally removed from whether they hire you or not. Your goal is not to get them to buy from you. Your goal is actually to be so consultative that you tell them the truth of what they need to hear. You identify, number one, what their objectives are. What are the outcomes that they are looking for? And then if you know that you can help them achieve that, then you reveal the things, here's what they need to know in order to make a decision, to make a change. Because we all have blind spots, right? So you need to dig into what those blind spots are for your client so that you can consult, give advice, give new information, help them see things from a different angle that they're not looking at it from. And that can be a little intimidating because what if they don't want to hear it? Well, guess what? If they don't want to hear it, then they're probably not going to be a good client anyways, right? But if they take that information, they say, wow, I've never thought of it like that before. Wow, that's really insightful. Guess what? You're onto something. So dig into that because you're serving them. And then at the end of the day, it's going to be up to them to say yes or no. And the goal is not to get 100% to say yes. The goal is to show them that you can help them achieve the outcomes that they want. And you're giving them value by being consultative, by not just trying to convince or persuade, but by helping them see the situation that they're in and why they need to make a change. And when you do that, you are cultivating trust. And trust is so valuable. It is so underrated. And that is the number one thing that you need to establish with people in order for them to work with you. Not trusting in past success, not trusting in the logos that you have on your website from, companies that have worked with you before, but that interpersonal trust that you develop because they actually know that you care about them as a person, that you care about the results that they're going to get, and that they trust that you can help them achieve what it is that they want to achieve. You can help them get to that end goal. So that is what you want to focus on. That's the mindset that you want to have. And you know what effect that's going to have? It's going to increase your sales closing rate. It just will, because they're going to know that you really care about them and that you care about them more than you care about whether they hire you or not. So take that approach. That's what it means to be consultative. You're bringing your knowledge and your expertise to the table, and you are listening, you are understanding what it is that the outcomes that they want, and then you're helping bridge that gap so that you can show them, yes, I hear that these are your objectives. I can help you. Here's what you need. And you're not going to say the words, here's what you need in order to make a decision to work with me, but identify what those things are so that you can have that conversation and lead them to that point. And they're going to feel so well served. That is how you do a consultation call. That's how most people are not doing it, What if you do it that way? You're going to stand out from the crowd. You're going to give people something valuable right then and there, and that value will translate to increased sales. Okay. What do you want to dive more into when it comes to being consultative? Let me know. Send me a DM or a comment here. That's going to wrap it up for today. And let's see, remember that next week we are changing the time. So we're going to start 1 hour later. That'll be the new standing time. And we're going to have a very special guest, Jay Lee with Golden Compass. He's going to talk with us about leadership. And he's got a really incredible story. You're not going to want to miss it. So put it on your calendar now. And then just tune in live. All right, you guys, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.